Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. To sum it up so far, the title of the West Point speech, December 1st, Obama declares war on Pakistan. The goal is the destruction of any central government in Islamabad, the creation of an independent Pashtun rump state, a Taliban state, if you will, promoting also the emergence of a Baluchistan rump state. Who knows what the Sindhis will do? And the Punjabis in Pakistan then left in this landlocked entity up in the upper reaches, relatively, of the Indus River Valley. The breakup of Afghanistan, the breakup of Pakistan, and therefore the introduction of this bacillus of secessionism, subdivision, mini-states, micro-states into Iran and possibly into India. And don't forget Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and indeed into China. China has a common border with Afghanistan. You're dealing with things that are orders and orders of magnitude beyond anything the neocons ever dreamed of. This goes beyond the neocons. This is the Bernard Lewis plan as updated by Zbigniew Brzezinski and company in the Grand Chessboard. And the goal of this is the destruction of this idea of Pakistan as an energy corridor. Now let's just look at this. What would peaceful development look like? Well, peaceful development is the creation of a comprehensive network of Eurasian economic infrastructure, development corridors, oil pipelines, gas pipelines, electricity grids, water systems, superhighways, railroads, maglebs, and so forth. One of the obvious candidates, start a pipeline in Iran, take it across into Pakistan, go up the whole length of Pakistan, cross the Himalayas above Kashmir, go into China. Now, that would be a huge pipeline. It would be such a great idea that if Iran does it, Iraq, under Iranian influence, as we know, might well go along. So you'd have a pipeline beginning in the northern parts of Iraq, if you could get the Kurds to go along, this unfortunate group of NATO clients up there in northern Iraq. But then the pipeline could go across Iran, and then it could then go up through Pakistan and into China. Obviously, why not branch off so that India can get a share of this? This would give India and Pakistan for the first time a shared economic interest. The thing that the Anglo-Americans fear most is that once you've got an oil and natural gas pipeline and accompanying superhighway, railroad, communications, electricity grids, going, let us say, from Iraq maybe, but certainly from Iran into Pakistan and into China, that's the big one strategically, and indeed into India, you get that pipeline becoming a transmission belt, not just of oil towards China, but of Chinese economic influence and economic development into Iran, into Iraq, into Kuwait, into the Gulf Cooperation Council, into Saudi Arabia, and at that point, very little is left of the withered mummy of the U.S., British world empire and world domination. Now, part of the reason that this is such a sensitive issue is that the U.S., of course, over the last 30 years, since Carter, Volcker, and that trilateral regime, the U.S. has become a post-industrial junkyard, a dead economy, a corpse, a cadaver of the economic world, lots and lots of formaldehyde going around in the form of derivatives and speculation, but the real economic activity dwindling, right? The level of industrial employment now down to what, 9%, I think? Tremendous losses just in the last couple of years. The U.S. is no longer an economic player. The U.S. is economically up the creek. The U.S., of course, is a financial player. Yeah, you want derivatives, you want some credit default swaps, that Wall Street can deliver. But real economic development, hey, the Chinese are light years ahead, and others too, all around the world. The Europeans can do a much better job. German exporters, at least in certain niches, can deliver that stuff. Therefore, the economic degeneration of the United States has created this huge strategic vulnerability that if real economic development goes on and the U.S. can't skim it with the dollar, right, we'd have to assume that if Iran were selling oil to China, they would cut out the dollar and they would say, let's get some renminbi or let's get paid in some other form, maybe euros, but certainly not this unreliable dollar, which is being played with by this gang of fascist corporate state devotees in Washington, D.C., and at that point the U.S. is cut out of the picture. The City of London can't skim, Wall Street can't skim, therefore they have to block it. It's an absurd situation. We're now at the point where the degradation of the U.S. has gone so far that peaceful economic development, normal stuff, economic pipelines, oil pipelines, gas pipelines, electricity grids, railroads, maglebs, all the things that would normally be peaceful development, all of this is now perceived as a direct strategic threat, because that would begin to become a transmission belt again from China across Pakistan and into the Middle East of massive Chinese economic influence, which of course is already growing, even though they're forced to use that 12,000-mile inconvenient and expensive tanker route. Just look at the U.S. reaction again to the port of Gwadar in southwest Pakistan, very near the Straits of Hormuz. You could have your pipeline actually have a branch down there so that lots of tankers could get oil in the Abu Dhabi or Saudi Arabia, bring that out to Gwadar and put that on the pipeline. Tremendous savings as that oil flows overland into China. All of this range, and it's an exciting panorama of possible development projects to any human point of view, but from the City of London, Wall Street point of view, therefore the CIA Pentagon point of view, this is anathema. They've got to stop it. So that is the why. Now, let's take a look at this now. The reason that Obama's speech is such a mishmash, such a crazy quilt of contradictions, lies, and impossibilities is because he had to cobble together a piece of demagogy to cover this reality. You'll notice that one of the staples of his speech is this stuff about both sides of the border. One of the goals of this, remember, we can usefully compare it to Bush Cheney. With Bush Cheney, the goal was to take the hatred of the Taliban, of Al-Qaeda and bin Laden after 9/11, and to somehow transfer that out of Afghanistan and somehow pin that on Saddam Hussein. So what Obama's trying to do is to merge Afghanistan and Pakistan in the public mind. In other words, these are becoming the same thing in the collective unconscious of the unfortunately duped masses, the politically inert and stupefied masses here in the United States, especially the Kool-Aid drinkers who believe Obama. So both sides of the border, says Obama. The cancer of the Taliban has metastasized to the other side of the border. It's in Pakistan. So the New York Times caught that, and their article was entitled, "Between the Lines, a Focus on Pakistan." And indeed, a lot of the commentary, right, that this is really about Pakistan, and that's where Matthews gets his idea that it's a Rube Goldberg invention. Well, in some ways it is. It is a strategy of weakness. You cannot attack Pakistan directly because of their nuclear forces. You cannot hope to occupy them because it's 160 million people. The U.S. couldn't occupy this in a million years, even if they could defeat the Pakistani forces, which it's not clear at all that they could do, even with the help of India, right? That would lead to a guerrilla war. It would become a mega Vietnam beyond belief at the level of 160 million people and so forth. So this cannot be done. Therefore, the only hope is to precipitate a civil war. This accounts for these crazy contradictions, right? Obama says Afghanistan is a vital interest of the United States. A vital interest. That means life and death. Okay? The vital. That means vita, meaning life. Life and death in Afghanistan. But it's only worth 18 months. Well, that's, of course, a lot of demagogy for us left. But it's basically saying we think we can start this civil war and then reduce our presence once the civil war is going in grand style. We'll be back in a minute.